joining. We'll go ahead and get started on this. We're also, as you just heard, going to be recording this. We'll post it to our website in the next week or so. So if you want to see the recording and catch up on stuff, or if you want to share it out to folks later, we'll send the link to that to this group that registered once it's up on the website. But otherwise, thanks again for joining. My name is Nick, representing the Washington Tech Industry Association. I have a few just quick sort of thank yous and overviews on WTIA to run through before we get to the fun part of the show, which is the AI report. So first, wanted to say thank you to our sponsors, so K&L Gates, Accenture, Parker Smith and Feet, Core Cronin, also our broader cluster and WTIA sponsors that I'll go through in a moment. But also want to give a particular shout out to K&L Gates, who's also going to be hosting an in-person event next Wednesday. Lainey, if you can put that registration link in the chat. So for those who haven't registered already, next week will be a little bit similar to this. Again, talking about this AI report, but it'll be in person, so there'll be food, drinks, and networking alongside it. So if you're free to join us next Wednesday afternoon at K&L Gates, we'd love to have you there. And again, Lainey just put the link in chat, so feel free to register. A little bit about the WTIA. So we're a consortium that includes the WTIA Trade Association, which supports the tech sector here in Washington. And our mission is to build a robust, equity-centered tech sector that empowers communities. And so we do that in a variety of ways, from providing startup and small business services through accelerators, health insurance, other benefits. We work in public policy. We do workforce development. We work really across the spectrum, just trying to make sure Washington is the best innovation economy possible and a global leader in technology. So here's some of our impact over the last year and yearly. So we support 250 plus startups each year through our accelerator and other resources. We help facilitate about 600 investor startup conversations each year. We produce hundreds of events. We provide health insurance to thousands of people. If anyone is looking for health insurance, definitely get a quote on the WTIA plan. And we also work really closely with policymakers, providing education, tracking legislation, and helping basically create a supportive policy environment. So here's just a few highlights, but if you want to get or learn more, membership is free. Here's some of the things that we have. So again, a lot of events, product discounts, access to our network for coaching, mentoring, potential partners. And then I mentioned also HR benefits. So in addition to health insurance, we have 401k, and Lainey will put the link to join in chat. Best part, membership is free for tech companies. So if you're a tech company, you can join for free through that link. If you're not a tech company, feel free to reach out to us and we can chat about different partnership options that are available. This report was developed through the WTIA Advanced Technology Cluster, which is one of the Washington State-funded innovation clusters. Our focus is on basically making the Pacific Northwest the best place in the world to create, grow, and deploy advanced technologies. Our near-term focuses are around Web3, quantum, and AI. So this AI report, obviously new as of the last couple of weeks, but we also have done a quantum landscape report with Moonbeam and Nirav and his team a couple years ago, and also with Nirav and his team did a state of Web3 digital assets 2 years ago, and then refreshed it for this year. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out, or just maybe Arry, if you want to find those links, or Lainey, if you want to find those links, we can put them in the chat. But this is the third in our series of these reports, and I won't read through all the technology or all the focus areas of the cluster, but broadly, it's helping grow those sectors in Washington to make sure, again, that we're the #1 place in the world for these types of technologies to grow and be applied. Want to also say a special thanks to the WTA President's Club. So as you'll see through here, it's a lot of different types of companies that make up the WTIA. We have a little over 1,000 members, ranging from people at the very early stages, I have an idea, now what do I do, up to Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all those folks. And also work with a lot of service providers, government, academia, investors, all those folks that make up the tech sector and all the different stakeholder groups that care about development in Washington. So with that is my spiel for today. I'll stop sharing my screen while Nirav gets his going. And maybe Nirav, while you pull up your slides, I'll pass it over to our hosts for today. So Arry, if you want to introduce yourself as well, I'll kick it over to you too for the rest of the show.
Great. looks like Nirav's getting it up. Hopefully everyone can see it. If you can't see it, please raise your hand or put a note into the chat. But I will be serving as more the facilitator and moderator for today. We'll start off with a presentation and introduction with Nirav Desai. Hopefully many of you recognize him, and if you don't, he'll give an introduction of himself. We work with him and very happily with him and his team on a variety of analysis and reports. And my role is sort of the advanced technology consultant type person for the WTI in the community here. So if there's any interest in joining many of the different activities that we do via the WTIA, the events, the research, the advocacy, the education, please let me know, and happy to connect you to the respective right person. And don't forget, yes, December 11, we have our in-person event where both WTI and also myself and Nirav will be there in person if you want to talk to us next week on December 11th. But looks like you're ready, Nirav. Let's kick it off. Very interested about this artificial intelligence landscape report and looking at the economic impact of this awesome technology in our state.
Thanks, Ari, and thanks, Nick, both of you guys for the great introduction. Really looking forward to sharing the findings of this report. Again, Nick mentioned this is the third report we've done with WTI around these big areas within the Advanced Computing Cluster, or rather, Advanced Technology Cluster, quantum, Web3, and now AI. Three huge pillars of the Washington state economy, and looking forward to getting into it. So, AI is a broad term, right? So, and interestingly, 3 years ago, if you said AI, it was considered too narrow. And now when you say AI, it's extremely broad. The perception has shifted dramatically. When we looked at this report, we had to break that down into a number of various technologies that comprise artificial intelligence, and that get everything from the older models like expert systems and robotics, computer vision. That's the way we historically have thought of it, I would say, the last 10, 20 years, to the newer hot topics like generative adversarial networks, large language models, agents as well, intelligent agents. So all of these, we wanted to get at the heart of all of this. The other challenge I would say in making this report was looking at, every company today is an AI company, or at least claims to be. And they're all using it. If you're not using it, you should be, right? So how do we differentiate someone who's a company that's using it and has good marketing collateral around how they're using it from companies that are actually building the ecosystem, building tools, building models to advance the technology? So that was a challenge that we had to address. And in general, we took a more narrow approach. We wanted to focus on the definition we used is we included companies that were either creating new models, creating tools for other companies to use, or applying their own created custom models in unique domains, broadly speaking. But as you see, the investment has increased dramatically, and it's projected to increase in the next 8 years quite dramatically. Clearly, AI is transforming the economy. So I just wanted to give you a preview of the report. This is a lengthy report, and we wanted to look at what's going on comprehensively in Washington State. Really, as of August of this year is kind of where we stopped data collection and focused on analyzing data, and looking at it from a various different dimensions, from job activity, actually cataloging the companies in the state to date. And then we also looked at things like demographics and trends and what's going on the policy side. So quick overview of the table of contents of the report. Please check it out afterwards. I'd love to get thoughts. I'd love to encourage conversation around this. But now let's get in. Start with the team. We couldn't have done this without WTI's support and alignment of experts in the field. We did the quantitative initially, and WTI really leveraged their network and made available to us a number of experts for the qualitative component of this. We leveraged a variety of members of our team to do this and go from there. Again, a number of PhDs worked on this, including Raquel and Lucas. The qualitative work was more led by Patty. So I don't want to give an ad here. This is kind of what we do. We do market assessments, and we also do B2B matchmaking for corporations looking to work with enterprise innovation teams. But now let's jump into the report. So one caveat I want to say is we wanted to make particularly sure we're comparing apples to apples in this report. So there is a good amount of benchmarking against different economies. We did this at the state level. So when you compare Washington State, which really has one major metropolitan area, to a state like Texas or California, which has 3, 4, or 5, it's not really comparing apples to apples. So when you do a side-by-side comparison of metro areas, Seattle ends up being about second in AI jobs nationally, right after the Bay Area. When you do a statewide comparison, it drops to 8 in jobs. Now, again, and when you look at those numbers, New York, California, Texas, Florida, all have several major metropolitan areas within them. So again, it's not apples to apples, but we did want to comprehensively understand what's going on in the state as a whole. So as I go through this, you're going to see me shifting between Seattle and Washington, and please pay attention to that because that affects the rankings quite dramatically. I also want to highlight that about 96% of Washington AI related activities are within the Seattle metro area. This really, I mean, I would say in the state in general, Seattle is the key economic driver, but within tech, even more so, and within AI, even further. And so a lot of what we spent a little bit more time, cataloging what's going on in King County, but also looking at particular areas that are showing unique growth outside of these areas, things like ag tech, for AI for ag tech and such, that are taking place elsewhere. And I'll bring that up as we go through the report as well. And then another theme that we see over and over, and it will come out through the report, is the historic strength that the state has in cloud computing. And this goes beyond just the Seattle metro. It includes the Columbia River Valley and the data centers there. The state is showing the ability to pivot off this historic strength in cloud computing, the talent it attracts, the capability and resources that are present in the state to progress into AI quite effectively. So let's look at how we break down rankings here. So in general, Moonbeam looks across 5 dimensions when we do this analysis, and that is startup activity. Startups are creating the economy of the future. They're the disruptor. They're building what will be the economy in 10, 20 years. So that's the major focus. That goes very closely aligned with investors. Where is the money coming from? Who are the investors? How much is local? How much is international? How much is national? Jobs, and by jobs, this is really incumbent activity for the most part, though it does include some startup activity. But where are those jobs coming from? Who's employing who? And then we break down academic research and government-funded industry research. And really, this is the 5 dimensions we use across a variety of our reports. But it helps, identify where the state is doing well, where it can do some work. So as you see, we rank number 5 in startup activity, number 7 in investor activity, and number 10 in federally funded research and development. Washington State is always quite strong in startup activity. And as we've done more and more of these reports, we've seen that they always are really lagging in federally funding R&D. And I know this is a big initiative for WTIA around how we increase our share of federal SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research Grants, STTRs, Federal Tech Transfer Grants to help address that bullet. Where we do shine there is in life sciences. So let's get into the details here. When we looked at the startup activity, we found 481 startups. Now, that was in August. That number, I'm sure, has gone up since then. And these are ones that are not out of stealth, right? So we didn't include stealth companies that have not gone public, or sorry, correction, have not made their that they're around publicly in the public domain. We've looked at a number of sources from Crunchbase, PitchBook. Moonbeam has over 100 data sources that I mentioned earlier that we pulled together to identify activity. So we're pulling together a variety of sources to find this information. And when you actually break down what type of companies they are, ICT, Internet Computing Technology, the industry term, I think when you're talking about technology, it's rather open-ended, but these are largely technology companies that are building the tooling for everyone else to use. Then that breaks down into life sciences. Washington State is always very strong with, particularly a lot of these are University of Washington spinouts or closely affiliated with the University of Washington ecosystem, though not all of them. And then enterprise SaaS, these are more B2C, B2B companies that are building, or actually more B2B companies that are building tooling for end users. So the difference between ICT and enterprise, this was a distinction we had to draw more around whether they're building core tooling and selling to the technology industry, or are they building enterprise tools to sell across the economy? And that's really differentiating. That makes up nearly half of the AI startups in the state. And then you have a healthy mix of manufacturing productivity tools, line of business applications like finance, HR, legal, etc., ag tech, etc. With a healthy amount of funding in each of these areas. Now, going to the next dimension, this is investment attraction. What's interesting is that while we rank 5th nationally in startup activities, we're 7th in investment attraction. There are other states that are kind of being able to sell a little bit more of their message. Texas is a great example there, where they rank lower, and I don't have that up here, on number of startups, but higher per capita, but higher investment attraction per capita. So they're doing a better job of selling their message, though there's a lot of substance here. What's interesting also is the stage of investment. Washington State has a lot of a very healthy angel ecosystem. Investing early stage, these tend to be relatively risk-averse investors, even though they're investing at the angel stage, because they're used to enterprise-focused companies. And they do a lot of diligence. That sets up our startups for to do well on follow-up rounds, usually coming from out of state, usually coming from either California or actually international investors. We did look at the breakdown of where these companies are getting funding from, and U.S. outside of Washington State is the majority of it. A lot of this is coming from California and New York. But we have a healthy, about 20% of the investments are international investors. which again, and Ari, we've seen the similar trend in the Web3 research that we did together. The state is able to market well internationally and attract international investment, partially because of the expertise of these angel investors that are helping out these companies at early stage.
Hey, Nirav.
Yeah.
Since we have a relatively, I mean, it's kind of a big group, but we have a question in the Q&A. Can I just ask it?
Yeah, please.
So John asked, any insight on the creator economy? M&E, marketing, PR training, they've been a canary in the coal mine for each and every tech cycle, especially AI. Any insights you can share?
Yeah, so we looked at the creator economy a bit, and we didn't really highlight it here. It would fall within that consumer segment that you see on this chart. As the way we placed it on these in these boxes. It's a sizable part of the economy. We didn't highlight it too much in the report because it wasn't in that top 3, but it's right there, number 5. So it's a sizable part of the economy, particularly when you get into things like the video gaming sector, marketing, and then there's a lot of companies are experimenting with the future of creativity. And so I would say, and this is just not so much this report, but more the broader research we've done, comparing it to LA and Washington, Seattle, Vancouver, and LA. Seattle startups tend to be trying out different models, different approaches, and working at core technology, whereas LA is more applying that to existing industries, and Vancouver kind of doing the same.
Olivia just commented, creative is inseparable from AI. Art and creative direction is everything.
Good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Should I keep going, or are there other questions on that?
Let's keep going.
Okay.
And then we'll have opportunity to ask more questions at the end for those that are listening in.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have questions that are just dire in the moment, feel free to pop them in, and I'll see if I can interject and interrupt Nirav on your behalf.
That's great. And I encourage questions because it will be great if it's a little bit more interactive, as much as we can do on a web
Yeah.
conference.
Great.
So let's look at job numbers. That's the one of the other dimensions, and when you break down AI jobs and this is, I want to be precise how I talk about this. Of all the AI jobs we were to find nationally, Washington State accounts for 3% of AI jobs nationally. By comparison, Washington State accounts about 2.3 jobs across the U.S. So that's, a 50% overperformance in AI than we are in other sectors.
Wow.
All the way to carve that, but the real takeaway is that we are a hub for AI activity in the country. Also note that the CBRE research that ranks Seattle as the number 2 metro for AI jobs nationally. You can see it broken down by state and such, but the real key takeaway here is who employs these people. And in general, when you see jobs numbers, startups account for usually about 20 to 30% of the jobs. Small businesses account for a bit more, and then incumbents really account for 60% of the jobs. And with small businesses, I mean, it depends on what sector you're talking about, but in AI, startups really account for almost half. So there's a lot of experimentation going on. It's interesting because this number has gone up quite fast in the last year and a half. And you know, the startups are while incumbents are trying to figure out really what their strategy may be, they're looking for a lot of senior positions around carving, you know, head of AI, carving out their position on how they're going to approach it. Startups are really going out there building stuff, and it is reminds me of past waves around things like e-commerce and uh, frankly the birth of the internet. It's really a good sign from the jobs numbers there.
When we did the Web3 report, the jobs that we were looking at weren't just the engineers, right? So I'm assuming for the AI report, these jobs are not just the AI, you know, super smart engineers. It's also looking at the customer service and prompt
Yep.
engineering and all that sort of other stuff.
Yeah, and it's really an inflection where it's not these are a lot of entry level jobs even, right? Things like prompt engineers, things like even in like marketing professionals, they're looking for people who understand AI. So it's really across the board. It's not just like in Web3, the higher level PhD type positions, or in quantum.
And I as John and also Olivia mentioned before, it seems like a lot of the marketing can be done now using these AI tools to come up with new creative content and copy and images.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct. And again, I want to highlight for this report, we did not include all the users of this technology. When we're scanning the data, we saw a lot of job positions from any type of job position now has an AI component in it. But what we're looking when we say AI jobs, these are positions that are uh, um, advancing, or for companies that are advancing the core tech, and or building line of business applications of that technology into specific industries. They're building models, and then the jobs at those companies. So if you're so HR position for AI companies would be in this bucket. An HR position that happens to be using AI for scanning job applicants would not be.
Okay. Good. Thank you for clarifying, Nirav. We have a question from Matt in the Q&A. He says, how long before we have the first billion-dollar company with a marketing team of one?
I don't know, but probably not that long.
Yeah. Good food for
I mean, Airbnb was a 7-employee unicorn. And I would not expect that an AI company is very far from something similar, but that's just speculation.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, we have another one coming. Joe says, so tricky to parse these numbers. On the previous job slide, Bay Area had 1.5x percentage and number of total US AI jobs compared to Seattle. On this slide, California has 5x the current job postings compared to Washington postings, but that's the whole state, not just the Bay Area.
Correct. And that speaks to some of the difficulty of putting these numbers together. And also when you look at how they break down the Bay Areas, it's actually 2 different metro areas according to the census. There's San Francisco and San Jose, even though we know those economies overlap a lot. And similar with LA, Riverside and San Diego kind of overlap a lot. So yeah, it's hard to parse those numbers.
A little bit of an art, normalizing all the data.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So let's go a little bit further about what is unique about Washington State and what kind of is fueling our position here. Number one is talent direction. And this continues over across the tech industry. Washington State has a amazing ability to attract talent from across the country to relocate here. And I kind of draw a comparison to Boston, in that Boston brings a lot of very intelligent people to Boston for their education. The great schools in Boston are a huge talent draw for Massachusetts. Conversely, while UW's doing a lot, it's really the incumbents that bring a lot of the talent to the Northwest. Microsoft and Amazon and also all the California companies like Google, Apple, Meta that are having engineering offices in Seattle attract talent from around the country to the Northwest. And they also pay a lot of the cost for bringing international employee workers to the Northwest. And so that is a huge benefit on the talent, specifically with the AI talent. It really pivots off the fact of our strength in cloud computing. The skill sets are so tied together. Most AI requires strong cloud talent, and that's an easy pivot from taking the next step into AI. So that's really where the strength from the talent lies. The second pillar is really, and this really solidifies around life sciences. University of Washington is number 4 nationally in applying AI-related grants. So in the earlier slides where we said we're lower on applying, getting federal money, that excludes UW, or the data UW accounts for the lion's share of that. And that brings a lot, and because of so much of their grant money is in life sciences, that boosts the whole ecosystem around that. So you see a lot of, and I'm not saying that's all that UW produces, but when you look at it by the numbers, it's upwards of 50%. Washington State brings in a share and over to the east side of the state. And then if you see down the list, Fred Hutch, Seattle Children's, they also bring in, again, a lot of this is health-related money. And then the third part, and this is really, this is something that's a little bit hard to quantify, is we have a lot of innovation catalysts in the state. These are organizations like WTIA, right, that are providing founder education. Either, when the key element, machinery of talent attraction in the state is people going to work at incumbents. These organizations really help shape, Microsoft employees, Amazon employees, et cetera, that want to start something new, that want to do their first startup, helps them understand how to act as a founder. These are critical to this economy. We have over 53 institutional venture firms investing in the region. A slew of industry associations and innovation organization support entities. Techstars leaving the ecosystem is a huge blow, but a lot of these innovation catalysts have stepped up to kind of try to fill in that gap.
Yeah.
And then I would also give a lot of credit to the Washington State's cluster program around giving funding and to entities like Advanced Computing Cluster or Technology Cluster to put on programming that build that network.
Yeah. I think you've spurred on a lot of interest from our group here. So I'll just read Lakshmi asked, are you able to share the list of active AI VCs and angels with the group as a follow-up?
I think we should be able to. I'll confirm that with Nick and see if we can make that available.
All right, we'll take that as an action item. Thank you, Lakshmi. And I think we probably have quite a few AI-related entrepreneurs. So another question from Yen is, are there federal grants for AI startups?
Yes, it's primarily through the SBIR program. That's something I'm happy to follow up with people later on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of federal needs that are one of the key SBIR priorities, and it goes across agencies. It's looking at AI for a variety of areas. So I'd love to hear more, talk with you about how to engage that program and navigate that successfully.
Yeah, we'll share Nirav and Nick's contact information. Both of them have lots of information on the SBIR, STTRs. If you look into the chat, Nick just posted a link on the Washington Apex Accelerator. If you're interested in doing more of the grants and government funding, SBIRs and STTRs. So check that out. Thank you, Yen. And then Uday says, do we have a view on the percentage of AI-related jobs in Washington within and outside the Magnificent Seven? What's the Magnificent Seven? I've never heard of the Magnificent. We have a Magnificent Seven? And then interesting to know the momentum investments within these firms with huge cash piles versus outside.
Yeah, so we didn't quite. I'm interpreting Magnificent Seven as the top tech companies in the state.
Oh, okay.
Google, Microsoft, Amazon, etc.
Mhm.
Uh, we didn't really look at it, slice the data from those 7 companies versus everyone else. That was kind of what I was trying to get down to. We're trying to address more on the startup versus incumbent number today.
Mhm.
So the incumbents include more than those 7. That would include things like PACCAR and Expeditors and Starbucks, etc. But the closest I could get quickly is that startup activity is nearly half, which is higher than what I would expect.
That's awesome. We have so many great companies, and it's great to hear that you're, also reaffirming that we have such a great startup ecosystem here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
One thing in the report, and this is further down, we do have a kind of an index of some of the top incumbents in the state and what they're looking at from AI.
Hmm.
This is all from public data, so we're not, clearly this is what they've put out in press that they're doing.
Hmm.
But it's kind of a catalog of some of the big incumbents and what they're doing.
Amazing. Thank you.
So strengths and opportunities. So I again we're coming off a position of strength here, where a lot of um, the core industry is being built right here in our backyard. Um, a strength is that the state has started to take notice, and they're now figuring out what they can do to even further put the state on the map. When you talk international, and we work a lot with international clients, um, they often don't know where Seattle is. I mean, they
Mhm.
know of a concept, but I mean, frankly, sometimes they don't know that we're not in California, right?
Really?
Um,
No.
I mean, from a common passerby, right? It's not internationally. There's a lot of confusion between Washington and Washington, right? I mean, I'm not saying people have been out here, but like when you talk to international ministries of commerce,
Oh.
they don't necessarily. It's not top of mind. So there's that branding that needs to be done. That Seattle is its own thing. Washington State is different than Washington D.C., right? Um, and there's a
Mhm.
tech economy here, and it's different from what you see in the Bay Area. Even um, so that's one thing, and having the task force come up with what's unique about Washington State and what the state wants to focus on really helps that narrative. So
Agree.
that's great. They're working on an AI house downtown that
Yes.
is supposed to be opening up in 2025. So
Yeah, February, March is what I heard. So
yeah.
really excited about AI House. And then actually when you mentioned the need to do better messaging and branding around Washington State, like all of us on this call can do, be a part of that, telling our friends and family about this ecosystem and all that's going on here and getting involved. And also I just want to note and highlight that Kelly Fukai, she is the CEO of now the WTIA, sits on the Washington State AI Task Force. So if you want to get involved or hear about what's going on with that task force, just reach out to any one of us and we can connect you.
Another strength is we have a growing number of investors, and right now it's primarily at angel and seed. But these funds are getting more mature. The more
Mhm.
they invest, the more they graduate up, and the more they're able to raise. And you're now starting to see later and later stage investments. That's critical because when you're trying to get it, when the metric of a unicorn, right, is a lot of that money right now comes from California money. And if that can be more local, there's more benefit to the economy here, and there's more direct benefit, less work that our startups have to do to raise their next round. And then we have thriving hubs that help make the bridge across sector. So while that ICT number is really high, I mean, that's a diverse list of sectors that our companies are working across. And so even though we don't have a huge finance industry in the States since Washington Mutual folded, we have a lot of finance-related AI companies. And that really speaks to these hubs and how they help companies work across sector and the experience of founders that start these companies.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yep. Challenges now. This is the fun part. And I'm I've been a bit of a cheerleader through most of these slides for the economy. There are some areas we need to improve. Number one is getting women into the founding core of startups. Only 13% of founders of those 481 companies are women. That's low in most in general in entrepreneurship, but 13% is even low across most standards, most comparisons of startups.
What about like tech startups? I mean, is it low in terms of tech startups too?
Yeah, and I'm just offhand, I don't have this number in the back of my pocket, but I believe across tech startups, the number is more around closer to a third now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And again, this is anecdotal, so I'd have to go back and confirm that number. But
Yeah.
when we looked at this was lower than the tech startup average.
Okay, we gotta recruit more women into AI.
Correct. Again, I think I beat this point over the head of light federal R&D, but there is, again, for entrepreneurs out there, there is money out there. You have to know how to speak to get that money. You need to understand how to navigate the different agencies, and there's not one government. There's a bunch of agencies that have their own ways of approaching and things they want to accomplish, and they're evaluating you, one, on whether you could accomplish their mission, and then number two, can you commercialize that? That money is specifically intended for you to address a government problem and then commercialize that to other sectors. So, knowing how to navigate that's pretty important. A lot of number, there's the heaviness of King County and the role it plays. We actually have more demand here for AI talent than we have, there's more, even with the large number of jobs here, our talent locally cannot supply all those jobs. So it's a supply side market right now. Again, what we've seen again and again is we have the post-pandemic, we haven't gotten back to convening. So this is more on the qualitative side of our research. Again and again, our interviewees commented on how fewer networking events and activities there are post-pandemic than there were before. And some of the interviewees we even talked to have relocated partially because of this.
Oh. Well, we are trying to make a concerted effort to do a lot more in-person events like next week on this report, December 11, 4 to 6 p.m. in Seattle. So hopefully we'll see many of you out there. And then as we go into 2025, we have a lot more networking opportunities for those in startups and in the tech community coming up on behalf of the WTIA. So stay tuned, make sure you register, sign up as a member, all those good things.
Now, the other few factors I just want to highlight more as threats is a lot of the talent attraction in the region has been around these Magnificent Seven, these big engineering employers that bring talent to the state. As we increasingly see remote work or hybrid work being the norm, it'll be curious to see what Seattle's value proposition becomes on that. And we see that coming in. I'm sorry?
I was like, the mountains, the ocean, the amazing summers. So
I'm not saying people don't want to live here. I'm just the attraction, like they're not being forced to move here the way they had been in the past.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And we have seen some of that attention shift, particularly as economies have become more active post-pandemic. Two areas like the Bay Area, Austin, Denver, they're really coming alive because they have just been a little bit more active on the civil society side.
Okay.
Uh,
Marketing.
Yep. Um, and opportunity, this last slide is really on where we can just recommendations based on the research and based on the interviews we did. There seems to be a pent-up desire for more in-person programming, more curated events where founders and investors can meet in a more casual manner. That's being addressed, and hopefully AI House helps with that as well. But again, people are looking for ways to engage. More resources to founders, particularly on as seasoned product managers are looking to move on, or engineers are looking to find co-founders, creating those opportunities for them to connect and share ideas. And then R&D funding is an opportunities to do more around getting a non-dilutive investment to startups. And really, this last one, while I said we are strong on attracting international and national capital, it could always be better. Part of what we see with the numbers in like Austin is the attraction that South by Southwest brings to that economy. How do we bring more? We're all off on the corner of the country. How do we bring more decision makers and investors out to this area to see the wealth that's here?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Would love that.
And with that, that's actually the executive summary of this. There's a lot more detail in the report, so I encourage you to check it out. We go into a lot of detail of breaking down these different companies. I'm not going to go through all the detail on this, but I'm just flipping to the last slide so you have my contact information, and I'd love to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that report, Nirav, and all of the work. I know it takes quite a lot of effort to build a 116 pager. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. Olivia writes a comment. Amen to that. Blend events that are cross-country. Tech can't stay with tech. Come hang out with film, music, art, performance. Tech has to blend with culture. And we agree. I think we had actually a networking event maybe a few weeks ago, and this was also another hot topic that came up during that event. And I think there's quite a few people that are working on maybe creating a North by Northwest or something like that out here, because we have this history of grunge music out here, right? Like we are known as a music epicenter.
That term is owned by Southwest, so we cannot use that name. But yes, 100%, there needs to be more that crosses sectors, crosses capabilities, and puts the wealth of potential on the map nationally.
Yes. So Lakshmi, yes, asks, thank you for the summary and presentation. Are we able to download the detailed report? Yes, I believe their report is downloadable. There's a link on the WTI website. I'll see if I can grab it quickly, or maybe Nick or someone can grab it and drop. Oh, he did so fast. If you go into the chat, Nick has a link that'll allow you to download the full report. So make sure you grab that before you head out of this webinar. Other questions? Oh, there's another one. She says, thank you again. Appreciate it, from Lakshmi. I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm really involved in the world of decentralized AI. So I noticed that decentralized AI wasn't in one of the word cloud of things that you were looking at for this report. Is decentralized AI, is that part of this topic?
Yeah, so it is, and it's it was in that finance bucket.
Oh, okay.
But we actually did a actual breakout, looking at the particular areas that that WTI is most interested in, right? And mapping AI activity against Web3. quantum and one other sector. It's not just, I think, spatial, VR, AR.
Okay.
There's a whole section on that in the report.
Like, good to know. It'd be interesting to see how it breaks out as we go into 2025, because I think decentralized AI and the idea of agents and then all of this like DevOps infrastructure is going to be a bigger topic as we mature this technology.
And when we started looking at the federal funding and what they're interested, there's a lot of interest around edge AI.
Oh yeah,
Train centrally and deploy locally, having AIs that are not as dependent on the cloud.
awesome. John asked, do you have a link to the live event next week? I think we can pop it right into the chat. But if you need to know, it is December 11th. I believe that's a Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. at the K&L Gates office in downtown Seattle. I think K&L Gates will be breaking out the refreshments. And if you haven't been to the K&L Gates office, amazing, beautiful views, like amazing. So definitely worth checking out. And hopefully we get to see you and shake hands and exchange information and ideas. It looks like Nick has dropped it in. So the first link that Nick dropped in is the link to download the report. And then the second link, which is https:// WTI dot blah, 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 blah. That is the link to RSVP for the in-person event next week on December 11th, where we are going to be doing the formal launch party for this report. Because we know it's been a lot of work and we want to celebrate with you. And yet, oh, more questions. All right, Michael says, KEXP, human curated music, where music matters, a beacon of creative energy and well-known around the world. That's right, KEXP.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Michael. And then Yan asks, can you go into more details about the different areas of AI, like quantum AI?
Yeah, so that was, and let me see if I could because there's been two questions about that. I'm just going to go back to the table of contents here.
Yes, please.
And share what sections, both the quantum breakout and the Web3 breakout. And I'm doing this and just realize how giant this file is.
I mean, the Web3 one is huge too. Oh, and while you're looking for that for Yen, Steve says GUI, GOOEY.ai is working on decentralized AI. Read the paper here. Oh, I will. I'll click on the link. It's https://blog.gooey, GOOEY.ai, WAC workflow-standards. Thank you, Steve. All right, you're at the table of contents.
Yeah, I'm just, so that section is in this 2004, I believe the Washington AI Landscape Trends section, but it is the actual breakout on what's going on specifically around quantum and Web3. So while we're talking, I'll see if I could easily find those slides and bring it up as background for coming back to those questions.
Great, thank you. And then as you were going through and building this report, was like energy a topic at all that you came across, or was it, part of the conversation as you scoped out this report?
Yeah, we didn't go into the details on energy. There are AI related energy related AI companies, but it wasn't a breakout area.
Thank you. I think we have a couple minutes left. I'll leave it open for one more question, but in the meantime, how about we go back to Nirav's, or maybe Nick, can you drop in your email address if you have any questions and want to get in contact with WTIA and all of the great activities and programs. Basically, Nick is the connector of connectors. So reach out to Nick if you have any questions or comments or suggestions. It's nick@watech.org, WATECH.org. I'll pipe in my contact information if you want to chat at all. washingtontechnology.org. That's me, Arry at washingtontechnology.org. And then Nirav, do you want to type in your email address?
Yeah, it's Nirav at moonbeam.ai.
And yeah, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn and or send us emails. And thank you so much, Nirav and WTI. And Nick should have actually been moderating this when I think about it because of all the work Nick's done. But feel free to connect with Nick and or Nirav on this. And Mark, I've noticed you have a hand up, so I wanted to just also call out Mark. Do you have a question or do you want to chat? I don't see Mark. Nope, he put down his hand. All right, never mind. Okay, well, you see their contact information. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your day today, and I hope you'll join us on December 11th from 4 to 6 p.m. For our official launch of this report. And thank you so much to Nirav and Nick in taking the leadership of making this report happen so that we can lead with a data-informed mind around this technology in Washington State. And don't forget to evangelize and advocate for our state and letting people know of all the great stuff that's going on here. Thank
And
you.
thank you, Arry, and everyone who asked questions.
Oh no, there's more questions. Should we keep going? It happened. Okay, can I go? All right, Michael Fitzgerald, what are your thoughts on AI agents and how are they being utilized?
So I will speak to that more from a personal than the report. I think it's a very the report didn't cover specifically agents as a sub area, but it is one of the most exciting parts of AI. I personally feel, particularly as we get more into more discrete tasks and the building a pipeline of thought, so of artificial thought. Very optimistic about that, and I see a lot of investment activity in that space.
Okay, I said one more question, so that was it. Hopefully that answered your question, Michael, but if it didn't, please feel free to ping myself, Nirav, and or Nick. All right, with that, we're a wrap. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Wednesday. It's hump day.
Thank you.